The Whitmore family was one of the wealthiest in the city. Their mansion overlooked the rolling hills, a place where fountains danced in marble courtyards and luxury cars gleamed like ornaments. For years, the company Whitmore Holdings had been under the steady leadership of Mr. Whitmore, but age had caught up with him, and now, his only son Andrew was returning from abroad to take full ownership of the empire. Servants hurried through the mansion, preparing for his arrival. The family chef prepared dishes Andrew had loved as a child. The gardeners trimmed the hedges until not a single leaf looked out of place. His father's face carried pride, but his mother, Margaret Whitmore, carried something else: worry. Andrew will inherit all this wealth, she told her husband that evening, staring out at the courtyard. This world is full of gold diggers. Every girl who smiles at him will do so with a purse in her heart, who will see him for the man he is, not the money he owns. Her husband sighed. We cannot choose for him, Margaret. He must make his own path. But Margaret's spirit was restless. She had lived long enough to know that people wore masks before the rich. She wanted to see with her own eyes who around her son could be trusted. The next morning, instead of her elegant gowns and pearls, she wrapped herself in an old cardigan. She traded her soft shoes for worn flats and tied her hair in a dull scarf. At the gate of the grand glass building that carried their family name, she did not arrive in a chauffeur-driven car. She walked, carrying a bucket and mop. Inside the offices, laughter rose when she passed. Two young women covered their noses dramatically. Look at her. The smell of bleach follows her like perfume, one whispered. Another pointed at the rag she carried. Who even hired this one? My grandmother dresses better than her. They laughed, tossing their empty coffee cups on the freshly mopped floor, so she would bend again to pick them up. Margaret said nothing. She bent her back stiff and collected the cups with steady hands. She could feel their stares crawling over her like ants, but her eyes were calm. Not everyone joined in the mockery. At the reception desk, a young woman named Emily simply looked up from her files. Her eyes met the older woman's, not with disgust, not with pity, but with the simple acknowledgement of one human to another. Good morning, ma'am, she said quietly, her voice carrying warmth. Be careful, the floor is wet. Someone might slip. Margaret straightened slowly, her gaze lingering on the girl. Unlike the others, there was no sneer on her lips, no laughter in her eyes. Only normal kindness, the kind that asked for nothing in return. That moment told Margaret more than any rich man's banquet ever could. Days passed. Every morning the cleaner entered in her faded scarf and old shoes, and every morning the staff snickered, mocked, or ignored her. Every morning, Emily greeted her the same way. Good morning, ma'am, as though speaking to someone worthy of respect. When lunchtime came, most of the staff headed to the cafeteria. Emily often stayed behind. One afternoon, she pulled out a brown paper packet. Steam rose from the sandwich inside. She turned and found Margaret scrubbing a corner. No one else noticed. Ma'am, Emily called softly, have you eaten? Margaret looked up, surprised. Not yet, my dear. Here, Emily said, holding out the packet. I brought extra. The older woman sat on the edge of a chair, taking the food with both hands. May blessings follow you. Few remember that cleaners get hungry too. Emily smiled faintly. My mother always said food is only sweet when shared. Eat, please. For the first time that day, Margaret's heart felt light. On the day Andrew Whitmore returned to the company, the building buzzed like a hive. Staff polished their shoes until they shone, adjusted ties, and powdered their faces. Whispers floated in the corridors. He's tall, I heard. Rich, of course. He studied in London. Imagine if he noticed me. This is the chance of a lifetime. Even Emily felt the tension, though she buried it under her work. She had no illusions about billionaires and their lives. Still, she was curious to see the man whose name adorned the company logo she passed every morning. At 10 sharp, the elevator doors opened, and Andrew stepped out. His suit was cut sharp, his stride confident, his presence commanding. Phones clicked as staff pretended to check screens, but angled cameras to capture his face. Welcome home, sir. Voices rang out. Andrew smiled politely, shaking hands, but his eyes swept the room with practiced caution, as though he already knew the weight of false admiration. From the corner, Margaret watched silently, mop in hand. No one noticed her except Emily, who walked over and whispered, Your bucket is blocking the way, ma'am. Let me move it before someone trips. Together, they shifted it aside, unnoticed by the rest who jostled closer to greet the heir. Andrew turned, his gaze catching briefly on the receptionist with calm eyes, who wasn't pushing forward like the rest. She simply returned to her desk, arranging files as if the day were ordinary. His brow lifted slightly, and in that instant, Margaret's heart stirred. She had seen enough to know that destiny was quietly unfolding. Not everyone was pleased. Among the staff, Cynthia, one of the women who had mocked the cleaner, carried an ambition sharper than her stiletto heels. She had set her sights on Andrew the moment he arrived, and each time she caught his eyes glancing even briefly toward Emily's desk, anger burned in her chest. One morning, an envelope landed on Andrew's desk. Inside were copied financial documents and a note. The receptionist has been leaking company information. Ask her about the files. Andrew's jaw tightened. He summoned Emily at once. She entered nervously, glancing at the papers in his hand. Do you know anything about this? He asked. His tone was calm, but his eyes searched hers. Emily shook her head firmly. No, sir. I have never touched documents beyond my duties. Who would say this? Tears welled in her eyes, but she refused to look away. I may be poor, but I am not a thief. Silence stretched between them. Then, slowly, Andrew pushed the papers aside. I believe you, he said, but someone clearly wants me to doubt you. Until I know who, be careful. At the back of the room, Margaret, still in disguise, had seen the fear in Emily's eyes and the steadiness in her son's voice. She smiled faintly. Trust was beginning to take root, but trouble was not finished. A week later, as Emily left the office late at night, footsteps followed her down the quiet street. Rough hands pulled her into a waiting car. The door slammed shut, and the vehicle sped into the darkness. At the company, Andrew received a call. A voice sneered. If you want your little receptionist back, step down from your position. Leave Whitmore Holdings, or she disappears forever. His blood ran cold. Who are you? He demanded. The line went dead. Without hesitation, Andrew gathered a few trusted men and set out. Hours later, they tracked the kidnappers to an abandoned warehouse at the edge of the city. Inside, Emily sat tied to a chair, her face pale but her spirit unbroken. She lifted her head when the door burst open, and Andrew strode in, fury burning in his eyes. You touch her again, and you answer to me, he growled at the kidnappers. The men fled as his team advanced. Andrew rushed to Emily's side, untying the ropes with trembling hands. Are you hurt? He asked, his voice softer now. Emily shook her head, though tears slipped down her cheeks. I knew you would come. For a moment, silence surrounded them. His hand lingered over hers, warm and steady. In that instant, wealth and power faded, leaving only two souls bound by trust and courage. The office buzzed with gossip the next day. Some whispered that Emily had staged the incident to gain Andrew's sympathy. Others swore they had seen Cynthia lurking near the warehouse district days before. But security footage surfaced grainy video showing Cynthia handing documents to a shadowy man near the parking lot. The same man later appeared near the warehouse. When the evidence reached Andrew's desk, he summoned the entire office. Loyalty is not measured by smiles, he said coldly. It is revealed in actions. The screen behind him flickered with the damning video. Gasps filled the room. Cynthia's face drained of color. Guards escorted her out as she shrieked and protested. And then Margaret's voice rose, steady and clear. Indeed, my son. Heads turned. The cleaner stepped forward, not with mop in hand, but in an elegant dress, her pearls shining, her posture regal. Mother. Andrew breathed. Gasps rippled through the crowd. I am Margaret Whitmore, she declared. Mother to your boss, and the woman you all thought was beneath you. I came into this office in disguise to see what eyes could not tell me. I saw mockery. I saw greed. But I also saw kindness that asked for nothing. Her gaze swept over the crowd and landed firmly on Emily. This young woman greeted me when others mocked me. She shared her food when others threw their cups on the floor. And when storms rose against her, she did not bend to lies. Margaret reached for Emily's trembling hand and placed it into Andrew's. This one, my son, has the heart of a queen. Riches can build towers, but only character can build a home. Applause broke out, thunderous and unrelenting. Andrew looked at Emily. You trusted me when even I doubted. You believed I would come for you when the world tried to silence you. Will you walk beside me not as my employee, but as my partner? Emily's lips trembled. Yes, but the true mastermind was yet to be revealed. The captured kidnapper confessed. It wasn't my plan. We were paid by your uncle, Richard Whitmore. Shock swept through the board. Richard, Andrew's own uncle, stepped forward with bitterness in his eyes. Why should one boy inherit everything? He spat. I built this company too, but your father chose you, and left me scraps. I only wanted what I deserved. You wanted the whole empire. Andrew replied coldly, even if it meant destroying innocent lives. The board voted swiftly. Richard was stripped of his position, disgraced, and cast out. Weeks later, the scandal was a memory. What remained was brighter. On a crisp spring morning, beneath blooming trees, Andrew stood before Emily. Their families and friends gathered around, the air filled with laughter and music. He held her hand firmly. You came into my life when I least expected it, and you showed me that love cannot be bought or bargained. Will you marry me, Emily, and share not just this company, but my heart, my home, my journey? Tears shimmered in her eyes. Yes, Andrew, 1,000 times, yes. Their wedding months later was a celebration of love, not wealth. Emily walked down the aisle in a simple yet elegant gown, her smile brighter than jewels. When their vows were spoken, it felt not like the union of wealth and beauty, but of two souls who had weathered storms together. In the years that followed, their home was filled with joy. Emily's laughter echoed through the mansion, and the sound of little feet soon joined it. Whitmore Holdings grew stronger, not just because of Andrew S.'s business sense, but because of the heart he had chosen to share his life with. And through it all, Margaret Whitmore sat in the garden, watching her grandchildren play, smiling to herself. Her plan had worked not just to find her son, a wife, but to teach all who witnessed it a lesson. That wealth may build towers, but only love and truth can build a life worth living.